Hello, Greenhouse Mentors! My name is Michelle Crook. I'm part of the 2016 class of Illinois Greenhouse Scholars, and I'm going to talk to you about mentorship. First, let's get the logistics down. You're going to get a scholar from the 2017 class of Greenhouse Scholars from Illinois. You're required to somehow interact with your scholar for at least 2 hours every single month. Now, this interaction can happen through texting, email, phone calls, in-person hangouts. Any sort of interaction between you two counts towards the 2-hour requirement. Now, before we dive into some more details about what your relationship should look like, first, we need to cover how you talk to a college student. But Michelle, I'm an adult. I know how to talk to a college student. How hard can it be? Rule number 1. No early meetings. We are not functional at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., for some of us not even 10 a.m. So don't schedule your first meeting with your scholar very early in the morning. Chances are they won't really be comprehending what's going on. Rule number 2, we don't all do email. For some of us, it's best to reach us via texting or phone calls or handwritten letters. Do people do that anymore? Point is, ask us what the best way to reach us is and then use that medium. Rule number 3, chillax! I meant chillax. Being so professional can be intimidating sometimes. Don't meet your scholar wearing a suit and tie and ready to do business. Chill out. Rule number 4, don't judge. We get enough of that from our friends and family. Don't impose your opinions on us. Your role is to be an unbiased adult friend. Michelle, what if my mentee tells me she wants to, shave her head? If we want to shave our heads, ask us questions about it. See what we have to say and see if we've thought everything through. But do not judge. Michelle, I don't need these rules. My mentee and I are going to be best friends. BFF does not happen overnight. And this, my mentors, is rule number 5. This relationship is a 4-year relationship for a reason. If for some reason your mentee and you don't click the first time you meet and aren't BFFs forever right away, that's fine. Don't freak out about it. First encounters are sometimes meant to be awkward, and that is okay. Cannot stress enough how okay that is. It took me almost a year to open up to my mentor and be comfortable around him. So just be patient. And now we're going to move on to a little segment I call Advice for Me. The most important piece of advice that I have to give incoming mentors is that little things do count, whether or not you realize it and whether or not we tell you. Another piece of advice is to keep in mind the kind of personality your scholar has when you're reaching out to them or planning events together. If you have a scholar who's a little bit more introverted, maybe it wouldn't be the best idea to take them to a super crowded, super loud restaurant and decide to connect that way. And maybe if they like their space, you shouldn't be calling them or texting them every other day. Might freak them out just a little bit. Another small piece of advice that I have that I think really counts a lot in a mentor-mentee relationship is to thank your mentee for sharing anything, but particularly when they're sharing something really personal or something that is difficult to share. When they trust you enough to share things like that with you, it means the world to someone to say, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. It shows a lot of respect and it makes the mentee feel a lot more comfortable. Well, I'm exhausted from hearing myself talk. So now we're going to hear what some current mentors and scholars have to say about their relationships.
My first meeting with Swami, it was 2 things. One, it was a bit awkward because we had never met each other. We had emailed back and forth, and so it was awkward because this was the first time we met each other, and as you meet anybody for the first time, it's a little awkward, and Swami was nervous, and I was nervous, but what we did is we went to a restaurant called Stir Crazy. And Swami had picked that restaurant out. I don't think he'd been there before. I'd never been there before. But it turned out to be a great place because we both were able to make our own stir fry. We talked about that. That broke the ice. And then we got into a long conversation about who he was, who I was, what he wants to do, where he's going in life. And then talked a lot about how we're going to communicate and get to know each other more going forward and how I can help him and how he can help me.
I first met my scholar, who is Hasive Quintas, in the interview process. So I lucked out. I was part of the team that got to ask her questions and learn about who she was. And when she was accepted into the program, I learned that I was her mentor.
First meeting with Nick was really just a get-to-know-you type meeting. I didn't know what he looked like. I was curious to hear more about his background and how he found out about Greenhouse Scholars and how he selected his school, University of Illinois. So it was really just a typical get-to-know-you type of meeting, and it kind of led to, I think, the formation of what I think Nick's personality is, how I might be able to help him.
The activities that Hasive and I have done through the course of the year has been to meet for breakfast near her home on the south side of Chicago. I've also been up to Marquette University to attend an Evans Scholar event with Hasive, and I got to meet her classmates and her friends, which was a great experience. And we bowled and ate a lot of junk food.
Primarily, the activities that I've been doing with Nick are getting together to talk either at a restaurant or just arranged phone calls. We have not done other activities, although I have included his mother in one of our meals, two of our meals. I've also included my wife in that just to make sure everyone kind of knows each other. And so it's primarily been around the food theme. We've talked about doing some other things, going to a sports event or something like that. And so far it seems like the best thing, the most convenient thing for both parties have been meeting for dinner or lunch.
So Swam and I, we really never had to break the ice. I think we connected pretty well from the beginning, but I think our relationship has grown a lot in trust. And I think the reason that it has grown a lot in trust is because we both share a lot of personal experiences as we talk through issues or things or opportunities that Swami is pursuing. And I tend to try and share a lot of experiences that I've had that might help him come to the right decision with whatever thing he's working through or wants feedback on. And because we share a lot about, or at least I share a lot about myself personally and he shares a lot back, we're able to have a very trusting relationship, and that just continues to grow and feed off itself as we go.
I first broke the ice with Hasive through a lunch where I invited her downtown to the Loop to see the office, and then we walked over and had some lunch. I was at an advantage because I knew a lot about Hasive already because I had been part of the interview process, but our first meeting went very well, and I asked a lot of questions and learned a lot about her family and talked about what her expectations were for the year and how I could help.
The way I broke the ice with Nick was really just asking what he likes to do. And what do you have fun doing? What's your interests? How do you like to spend your time? And so that kind of got us started, and I think he kind of returned the favor to me, and from there we just kind of went naturally.
My advice to an incoming mentor would be to just keep it open and flexible and let the needs of the student maybe drive the relationship. It'll be different for all different people and scholars, and to just focus on supporting the student and being positive.
I think it's great to get to know not only the mentee but also the parents or parents, depending on the situation, because I think that allows you to put some context around your mentor or your mentee. I also like the idea of just setting a standard time to have a call or a meeting. We happen to select every 2 weeks. We would talk on the phone on a Monday at 1:30, and that's worked really well for my schedule, and obviously it worked for Nick's schedule. I will tell you that it didn't happen every single 2 weeks. We sometimes had to reschedule, but I think getting some patterns, some kind of something in the calendar allows you to make sure that you're touching base. The only danger of that, I think, is that you get in the habit of not doing as much ad hoc conversations. And so I've been stressing to Nick, and have all along, that this isn't the only time we can talk. He's used that resource at times, but I'd also make sure that the mentee knows that you're available on an as-needed basis. Believe me, they won't abuse it.
So working with a high-achieving student like Swami, who really has done, at his age more than I did by the time I was 30 years old, is in one way a little bit daunting, because you're not so sure exactly what you can do to help him, because he has done so much and achieved so much already at a early stage in life. But what you realize is that you can help him with the simple things. Things like, Swami, are you sleeping enough? Are you doing all-nighters? And if you are, you really ought to reconsider how you're spending your time during your day. Helping him with the adjustments from the high school world to the college world, where in the high school world, people are really tracking whether or not you're doing your homework and doing the things you should do to achieve. And when you get into college, you're on your own. Nobody cares if you go do your homework or you study for a test. And so that's a big shift in life, as you start to have to plan your own time and make sure you have all your activities lined out, and still make time for yourself, so that you're still feeding the personal things about you and not just the educational things about you that make you a complete person.
One of the things I've noticed about working with a high-achieving student is that fun doesn't always make it to the list of achievements for the college experience. And I think that's really important for some of these high achievers to understand that besides the academics, the whole process of finding yourself in college is extremely important. And I always find myself asking Hashve, oh, well, have you been to any parties? Have you met any new people? And those are important questions to ask to a student who's been mainly focused on their academics, because it's a huge, important part of life.
So working with a high-achieving student is fantastic, because most of those types of people are so responsive to input. And I think my observation, certainly from my time with Nick, but also talking to other scholars, is that they are definitely not a know-it-all type person or people. And so they really embrace the input. I think the tough thing is that their expectations are often so high in terms of their own performance that they can sometimes fail to realize that it's a super competitive world in most of the schools where our scholars are going, and that surviving to the next class, the next semester, the next year is as much of the task as making sure you're at the very top of your class. So I've tried to get Nick to understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we had some issues with him pulling a few too many all-nighters during his first semester, and frankly his second semester too. But I think he understands that it's not sustainable if he is driving so hard that he's not getting sleep or eating. So we've been trying to get some balance in his life.
I hope I was able to calm some of your fears of becoming a Greenhouse mentor. Greenhouse is an incredible job of picking amazing people for mentors, so I'm 100% sure that you will be A-okay. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Now go out there and have an awesome time with your Greenhouse Scholar.